If I knew I would be here in this place that you see a bit longer, I've come to the realization that in order to talk about things in terms of an upload, I would, for example, have some USB 3.0 uh, line or cord all the way over to the lamp that you see in the corner, where I could have this camera or something like it perched to take in where I'm seated, and perhaps including, you know, no close-up, but some semblance of what it is I'm talking about on the monitor. Another way would be, to record and then upload to the computer without some long cord going to something here. Also, I do have the capability, everybody does, to switch from one camera to another. One thing I won't do, though, is play a video game with myself, with various batches of footage, the way some people do, to make a wonderful, composite, say this footage and footage from approximately where the refrigerator is, or somewhere over there, and then from another camera and so on, into some coherent idea. But it's not necessary. In fact, all I need to tell you is that I've been looking lately at videos of places that I like. Maybe you might say it's way out of order for me to like something like Vancouver, Canada, because I've never been there. Well, maybe so, but Vancouver, Canada is one of these places heavily impacted by those who can afford to crowd in together in a given beautiful space. Um, so no, I couldn't really afford to be there. If I could claw my way into the city as yet another worker, as if I were maybe in Seattle, in the U.S., uh, big industry there, everybody knows that. Well, what could I do? Suppose I was something else. Maybe I had, uh, gotten through medical school somewhere, and I might be among the few who could confidently say, well, then, if I meet someone I like, I can start a family, and all of that. Whereas many people can't. I was listening to someone, where did he say he happens to be? Well, actually, he travels the world all the time. He offers videos in all kinds of places, and that's his job now. In fact, he even published how he rocketed from 0 subscribers to over 1 million in less than a year. And so he can afford to move around and make good videos. And he's a nice guy. But he, like all the others I have noticed, there may be some thumb on the scale. I can't always find what I'm looking for, just like I can't always do any number of things. But ideally, if I were, for example, uh, the kind of persons that I've met, you might think, on the web, I would offer not pictures of me, although I wouldn't hide from the camera, not pictures of me so much as something far more practical, and that would be, for example, in Vancouver, the Expo Line SkyTrain. Just for example, I would show at random, starting at some point, or maybe something else. Maybe if I started at the airport, literally, if I started from the airport on a given mass transit, made my way to one of the trains that would take me to a nice part of Vancouver. The way I would do it, I would show, the journey from the airport to a given uh, station, and then show myself or somebody walking not too far to a place to live, not necessarily into an apartment and look inside the refrigerator, something like that, but I would show something plausible in terms of what actually would be the practical adventure. Another would be a slightly less ambitious, would be from the airport to a more temporary abode, a nice hotel, or for that matter, a hostel for students or something. Maybe some of that, or also, as if somebody knows where he's headed, having already made arrangements. Getting off the plane all the way on foot to a nice apartment, or from a nice apartment building on foot to a train station, to some other station where one would get off and find oneself more or less a door-to-door experience to a workplace, or something. But instead, so many people will show, so I guess what some people want to see, the literal ride on the train. For example, I watched one where I was able to watch as the train proceeded through some tunnels. You see the gleaming rails and hear the sounds and see the sights, namely the walls and whatever, maybe something on a station that has passed by, whatever. And then it ends with the departure from the train to a landing, and there's nothing connected to that. There's nothing plausible about what one does then. Would it be even so much as getting off at a certain station, and not within walking distance, but look for a bus ride, several blocks, or maybe 6 or 8 blocks, to a wonderful, a delightful location. Then you would know, hey, what about living in this wonderful location? Get a bus to the train station, and from the train station, go to any part of Vancouver, or to the airport, That's not done by anybody. I'm picking on Vancouver, you might say, just because that's the last place I happened to look. All of what I saw is very good. It certainly gets my mind off of what you see here with my bald head and headphones. How could I, improve on that? Well, I do. I look at videos where big machines are repaired. I look at any number of things that offer a less piecemeal view of something. For example, there are farmers, dairy farmers in particular, who have a lot going on, and they have a lot to do to keep the farm working, and they offer enough to show how we grow our food, we harvest our food, we store our food, we get the food from storage to the cows, we milk the cows, we have these big tanks of milk, and the truck comes and takes away many tons of milk, And of course, some of them point out that this goes on 24/7, and it must be tended to 24/7. You can't just flip a switch, everything's shut down, and go off and enjoy yourself on a beach somewhere. Well, I guess some of the farmers I've seen are so big, they run such an operation that they could check out for a vacation because there are people who can fill in. But even then, I know how I would feel. I think I'd want to get back, you know, because I just wonder, you know, if I could do something like that. Isn't quite the same, I guess, if you're practicing medicine or something. You don't have to worry about, you know, what are they doing back at the office? Well, they're not doing anything. They're taking a break like anybody else. If the doctor is out, so is the staff in many operations. Of course, nowadays, a bright young doctor is more likely to have an office closely associated with a huge hospital, and he doesn't really necessarily hang out a shingle somewhere, that, you know, open or close or something like that. He's either there for activities or not, and if he's not, then others are there instead. Things have changed. I know there are good reasons why today a good physician is more likely to affiliate with a hospital or a team somewhere than do what used to be the case. But certainly dairy is like a hospital in the sense that, you know, those cows are there whether somebody's on vacation or not, you know. So and I have noticed that those who have every reason to expect things to be in good hands while they take a vacation, they want to get back just to be sure, you know. And what? Then there are people, you know, who haul in $250,000 or $400,000 with an airline. You're either flying or you're not, you know. And if you're not, you better watch it, because you better keep flying or find somebody to take your place. But when you are flying, you're pulling it down. It's a question of, you know, quality of life, you know, in terms of being halfway around the world every few days or something, you know, and then come all the way back. Well, you know, that ability is awesome, you know. 500 people depend on that kind of ability, but it is rather burdensome in a way. So Aircraft Pilots Association, stuff like that, see to matters of quality of life. But the reason I'm mentioning all of that is that there are many people, you know, many people who I think would watch, you know, good videos that people are able to make, you know, on a train, on the way. But they, as a rule, and it could be just because I have bad luck, as a rule they don't actually show a plausible, you know, idea. Namely, forget buying a car. Okay, so you start plausibly enough, vaguely enough with the film around some good apartments, for example, or for that matter, townhouses, penthouses, whatever. And you just don't want to worry about a car and all that. I imagine there are people who live in townhouses or whatever, whose locomotion is more or less affordable, even if it's to call your favorite, what do they call it, you know, these, instead of taxis, the alternative, you know, the app on your phone for a driver and all that, you know, you could call for somebody and get in there and go wherever, you know, including to a train station, you know, and go from a certain train station to where the hell you want to go, where you may have another car waiting on you. That's certainly feasible for people who, you know, it's an affordable goal. Just like people who necessarily sleep 8 hours on a jet, do some work in Tokyo, and then fly from there to Australia or London, you know. And so they're on a luxurious airliner with a compartment to live in and basically go to sleep And when they wake up, they put on clean clothes and do work and do something, and then on to the next. There's something to that, but ordinarily, I'm thinking in terms of a video that would show something more modest, namely, living in a nice place and young enough and healthy enough to walk a fair distance to a train station, and from a certain other station, walking a fair distance to a place to work or something like that. That's not shown. I don't know of anybody who's done that, and there's no way to order up something like that. I don't know how I would describe that. How would I look for that on the web? If I'm lucky enough to find one, that'd be great. But all the ones I know about involve getting on the train and getting off the train with no information about, real life, from a place onto a train and off of it. Or something else, for example, walking vaguely, speaking in terms of, a home, vaguely seeing where you are in terms of housing or something, to a train station and getting off where? At a place where you find all the grocery stores or butcher shops or, for that matter, good restaurants or whatever. And then with, one bag of groceries now is probably, what, $150, right? It's not as though you're going to, have much in your hands, maybe enough for a few days. And then when you shop in a certain area, then you would get on the train and ride back. Now, if you're not able to do that, then much of this just, I think, doesn't really have much traction to it. Would apartment houses and business places and shopping areas object to people more or less outlining, for example, if this room represented a nice apartment in Vancouver, rather than show me leaving here and getting on a train, what if someone began a video, more or less in an area with nice places to live, and showed a generous, leisurely or purposeful or a slog through the rain, whatever it might be, to a train station, and then getting on a train and getting off at a place where you work or a place where you shop, or and then and back again. In my place, as people know, there's nowhere from here for me to walk. I don't really think it would be. Those in wheelchairs know full well that. They could be featured. People in wheelchair could be featured coming and going here or there, and that would be fine. But that too, I don't know of anything of the sort. On the matter of groceries, if you suppose you did have a nice place to live and all that, what if you just didn't like the idea of only one bag consisting of $150 worth in today's prices, $150 worth in one bag, and you're in good health to carry that to and from. What if you wanted to show people doing a more normal shopping trip where they had, the traditional car that you put a bunch of food and groceries and house supplies into, and then you drive from there to your nice home, picket fence and driveway and a garage. Well, that's just not the reality now for a lot of people. a lot of people would, in fact, be more interested, I think, in a lot of places in the world, New York, Los Angeles, you name it. A lot of people are more inclined to want to know something vaguely like what they could find. It's all a matter of what is at any given railroad station. Some, you get off the train, there's nothing there, dare I say. You get off at others, everything's too expensive, and you get another, it's just right, it's just right. And then, you know, but that's not offered that I know about. If you're listening to this, you know that here's someone whose interest is academic. If I leave this room, I will be more isolated than ever. There was a plan for me to move from here, but something happened to it, and I don't know why. But on my budget, you might say, it's just as much fantasy as wondering about what one could find at the end of a train ride, one way or another. But in the real world, people look for what they can do at the end of any given ride. And, one train stop might be better than another. What would happen? Would the Gestapo come and get you if you made a movie that was informative? I don't know. But rest assured, I won't show up if you make a good movie about what other people can do. I won't, suddenly be on my way, because that's just literally impossible. Well, anyway, that's it for now.